There are a number of ways which your computer can become compromised, but knowing the number of ways that it could be will help keep your computer secure. Today, I thought I would go over a number of ways that your computer can become compromised with some form of malware or otherwise malicious software, and while it's far from every which way a device could be compromised, it should cover a fair amount of usual attack routes that the average personal computer could face. So the first one would be social engineering / Trojans, which is what I assume is the most common way of a personal device getting infected. This is when an attacker tricks an individual into installing malicious software. As always, be skeptical of any software you are unfamiliar with, and always scan it before installing it for an additional layer of extra security. The next one would be exploits in software. This attack vector would be exploiting running software to do something that was not intended. Most likely this is doing something along the lines of exploiting a bug in a web browser to maliciously install something on a device, but it could be an exploit in anything from a malicious macro within a Word document to an exploit within video game software. Fake updates. The third attack vector worth mentioning is the malicious use of updates. This comes into play when what appears to be a software update is installed onto a device despite the software being installed secretly being malicious code. While I would immediately think of this being performed on operating system updates, it would also be possible that this exploit could be used on a program that has an auto-updating feature. Regardless of where it comes from, it usually comes in three forms. First, an attacker could spoof the signatures of an update which usually tells the computer that the software is from the legitimate source, while it's really malicious. Secondly, it would be possible for somebody to hack into a company that is providing those updates and use the company system to push out malicious code from the attacker. And finally, it would be possible that a bad actor within the company who has their own legitimate access to the company's software update service pushes out malicious code using that service. Fourth would be firmware replacement. Firmware is code which helps software and hardware communicate, and because of that, it's a little bit more permanent, which can be taken advantage of by various pieces of malware. For example, even after formatting a hard drive, the firmware remains untouched. Therefore, an attacker can replace the firmware on the hard drive and thus be immune to the default process of just formatting the hard drive and reinstalling the operating system in a response to a virus or other malicious code. Next, we have hardware. So, you can attack software, you can attack firmware, and you guessed it, you can also attack hardware. A vulnerability within hardware, which could be on accident or which could also be intentional, can allow a backdoor into an otherwise secure system. And finally, there's always physical attacks to attend to. Physical theft would immediately allow access to any non-encrypted storage. Side note, I actually did a video on this a little while back, and the dreaded $5 wrench attack can get past any encryption if used properly. Well, I hope you found this video useful. Also, if you find content like this interesting, I'll have a few links in the description. One is for a video on ways to encrypt your data. The next is on bypassing the password on any non-encrypted PC. And finally, the last one is, in my opinion, the best way to back up your files. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but I hope you found this entertaining and fairly useful, and thanks for watching.